joining us is one of the House Intelligence Committee members who questioned Mueller, Democratic Congressman Jim Himes. Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Hi, Pamela.
First off, what is your reaction to hearing Robert Mueller's warning about Russian interference in the upcoming election and that it's interfering as we speak?
Well, not a surprise to me, sitting as I do on the Intelligence Committee, where we monitor these things pretty closely. But I was actually glad he made that case. There were obviously a lot of politics involved in what happened yesterday. But one of the things that I hope every American will hear is that the attack that we suffered in 2016, which may have had an impact on our election, is likely to happen again. And there's a lot of learnings there. The clip you ran is that any campaign, of course, that is approached by a foreign power should not welcome it, should not set up meetings to see what dirt you can get. They should, in fact, report those contacts to the FBI because it's quite likely to be a deliberative effort. The other thing, of course, that I think is really important, I wish we'd spent more time on this, is that the attack was successful because Russia manipulated our sentiment. 126 million Facebook impressions, Twitter ads that were designed to sort of stoke racial issues and other issues in this country. The American people really need to understand that what they see on social media, even if it sort of makes them feel good because it reinforces biases or political opinions that they have, it may be somebody like Russia or China or Iran trying to manipulate our political process.
So there's the question of whether yesterday moved the needle at all in terms of raising public awareness about these issues surrounding Russia, surrounding the president. That was laid out in the Mueller report. I want to read to you what your Democratic colleague, Congressman Jared Huffman, told reporters yesterday. He said, frankly, our Democratic majority has pinned a lot on Mueller and his report. In retrospect, we made some tactical mistakes. Do you agree with that? Was Mueller the witness Democrats were hoping for?
Well, I've spent months, Pamela, telling people that there were not going to be bombshells or headlines out of the testimony yesterday. I know Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller says what he thinks and thinks what he says and means what he says. And, there just weren't going to be headlines. So anybody out there who thought that this was going to be a major moment that was all of a sudden going to convince the American people that impeachment is the right recourse in a big way, that was never going to happen. I do think that there was value in having Bob Mueller talk about the conclusions of the report, particularly, again, let's set aside whatever you think of Donald Trump, which is a profoundly divisive question in this country, particularly having somebody of Bob Mueller's stature describe the Russian attack on our election. One area in which this very unemotional, direct man actually does get some emotion is when he's talking about the intensity of the attack and what we need to do to prevent it in the future.
Which raises the question, should the Intelligence Committee have held the hearing with Mueller first and then the hearing on obstruction happened second? I think that was one of the things that people are questioning today. But, you are someone who is in favor of impeachment. And as you pointed out, you never thought that Mueller would galvanize the Democrats, any more Democrats, toward that effort. But he was a reluctant witness. He clearly didn't want to do that, was pushing Mueller to testify the right move by Democrats.
Well, just to be clear what I favor, I don't favor impeachment per se, right? Impeachment is the end of the process of an inquiry of articles impeachment. Of representatives. I'm in favor of an impeachment inquiry, and that's really important because an impeachment inquiry, and by the way, that's as far as it goes. Nobody should believe that there will be an impeachment that leads to the removal of the president. And so the question then is, what would be the value of actually an impeachment process, an inquiry? The value of that is a little bit what you saw yesterday, which is that opponents of the president would make the case. They would say he's refused to offer his people up for oversight to the American people. He has lied about this. He willingly accepted Russian help. The supporters of the president in a very public way would get to present their case. And that would, I think, be a valuable thing for the American people with respect to thinking about a president who, to my way of thinking, is not qualified to be president. I never thought that yesterday was going to have much impact on the way people think about that. It might move the needle a little bit. But look, there are just not a lot of people out there in America who are discovering for the first time that Donald Trump is a guy who behaves in much worse ways than any president we have ever had. That's not news for anybody.
So what do you think of then of the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's strategy? She made clear yesterday she is not in any rush to open an impeachment inquiry and that she wants to let this play out in the courts first.
Yeah, look, though I am in favor of an impeachment inquiry, I speak on behalf of my 750,000 constituents in southwestern Connecticut. The Speaker of the House, of course, considers the big national picture, and she is thinking about public sentiment. You know, Nancy Pelosi always talks about public sentiment. She always quotes Abraham Lincoln on the importance of public sentiment, and I think she senses that for something as big and as awesome, and I use that word almost in the biblical sense, as impeachment, it's the single biggest thing, maybe next to declaring more, that the Congress can do, that public sentiment probably needs to be in a slightly different place than it is today. And I don't blame her for making that judgment. Again, she's thinking about the whole country and how people think in Ohio and Michigan and California, not just how people are thinking in Connecticut.